Prepping bottles. It's a big important part of the process, right? If a bottle isn't looking good on set, if we haven't prepped it the right way, it's not going to act the way we want it. So there's several things to consider when prepping bottles, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through a bit of my process. I'll show you some of the finer points, just kind of how I do it. So most of the time bottles come to us and they already have labels on it. It's rare that clients actually send us blank bottles. We often get the bottles that are already fully applied with the labels and we have to strip them off. Some of the time we get new hero labels that we can put on the bottles, and sometimes we don't. So I've got this brand 6 Mile Bridge, and we've got some bottles. I've already stripped a few off, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through how I strip this label off and then put on new labels. So there are a couple things to consider. One, they gave us really nice labels that already have sticky on the back. Sometimes we get labels that are purely paper and I have to use something like 77 in order to spray it and get it on the bottle. That gets to be a bit messier and it's a bit sticky. But I always want to go ahead and strip the bottles, because here's why. When things like this come in, remember they're done in a factory, right? So these things are kind of flying through a factory machine. It's just putting the label on the front and on the back. They're never straight, and then they're never in the right spot. Like right here, I don't know if you can see this, I've got a seam running right down the middle of the label. Not quite the middle, but it's coming right down here. That's terrible. I don't want that. Bottles always have 2 seams, one on either side, and they have little round marks at the top where they actually inject the glass into the mold. I personally prefer to have that little round mark facing camera, because I only have one of them. I can hide it and I can retouch it out a lot easier than I can these seams. These seams are just nasty. So the first thing to do is actually go ahead and strip the label. And remember, back labels are not good. They always create a huge dark black spot because light isn't going to go through a label. If we've got a label on the back, we're going to get nothing but a big dark spot coming through the front. That's not what we want to see. So the first thing that goes is the back label. I just use a nice X-Acto knife, and depending on how the label works, I can sometimes get it and peel it off. These are pretty good. These are called APLs, and they're gonna tear on me, but these are coming off pretty nicely, which I like. And it's just a process. You want to work slowly. I tend to use really good sharp X-Acto knives or blades because I want it to glide pretty easily through here. I don't want it to get gummed up. Man, these are good and sticky. Which tells me that I'm going to have good success putting new labels on too. The other thing that's nice about these APLs, which is an applied plastic label, it is really not going to soak up much in the way of condensation. When I put spritz and slush on it, it's not going to soak it up as much. That doesn't mean that I'm going to skip the step of going ahead and applying my clear coat. It just means it's going to be easier for me to deal with. So I'm going to do the same thing on this with the front label because I've got fresh labels I can put on. Let's see if I can get this a little better. Yeah, these are going to tear, so I'm just going to be pulling them off in sections. Wow. That's coming off really, really well. That doesn't always happen. I think we got lucky on this one. All right. So that is basically getting the label off. Now, I want to go through a few steps before I go ahead and put a new label on. This has got glue on it still. There's residue. If you look at it, you can see it's pretty gunked up. So I do a couple of things. One, I grab acetone, or I grab my goof off and I go ahead and I put this stuff on a paper towel and clean it really well. I want to get this bottle completely free of glue and residue before I put the new labels on. So I already have a few bottles that I've completely cleared off. I don't want to go through that entire process. So this bottle is nice and clean. I don't have any glue on it. And I'm going to set it in front of my light box. The light box is going to allow me to look at the bottle and see where the label needs to go. That light's going to kind of come through, and it just gives me a good view of the bottle. I get nice and low, and I tend to put these up on blocks a little bit just because I want to avoid that bottom edge of the light table where the light is actually not coming. I really want to have a good clean vision of that. So there are a couple of things that I do. I want to look at the bottle really closely. Having this light table is nice because I can go ahead and I can look at the bottle and I can see all its imperfections. If you could see this, I can see exactly where the seams are. On this side in particular, I've got some real bumpy spots in the glass. It's just from the way it's made, came out in the mold. So I want to find the right spot and I'm going to bring it forward. And that's it. So I'm going to put that right there. I'm making sure that I've got the seams on the side, and you can probably see this side is really rough. Right there, that seam is pretty rough, and there's some dimples in the back side of the glass. I don't want to bring that to the front. I want to hide that in the back. I'm going to get nice and low. Remember, I want to look right into it. All right, so the first thing to do is really carefully take off the New Hero label. And like I said, these are nice because they already have the glue on the back side. They're nice and easy to put on. I always close one eye. When I go at a bottle like this, I don't have both eyes open. I close one eye so I can come at it and I can really see it clearly and cleanly. Because I want to put this label on in the right place and I want it to be straight. So the first thing to do is just barely touch it. I'm bringing it right to the bottle. I'm just letting the bottle kind of grab it, and I'm letting that very center strip just touch, because I want to make sure it's good and straight, and I want to make sure it's going to be clean. Now, at this point I actually pull it off, and I'll bring it towards me, and here's what I want to do. I want to rub that label on nice and smooth. I don't want to create any wrinkles in it. So I have found that bring it kind of close to the front, starting in the middle, I'm just going to go up, and I'm going to go down. I'm going to do this really gently, and I'm going to work from the center to one side, in this case the left. And now I'm going to go from the center and I'm going to go out the other direction. And that is it. Simple, but it makes a huge difference. When I get this on set, I'm going to have a nice clean bottle. I'm going to have a bottle that's got a label that's properly set, and I don't have to worry about it being crooked. 6 Mile is a little unusual in that they don't have a neck label. A lot of brands will also have a neck label, so we've got to be careful about putting that on as well. One of the things that's really tricky, and again, you want to use one eye, usually there's a secondary logo on the neck label. You want to make sure that that is lining up dead center with the label down below. So once I've got that done, I will grab a cloth and a glove, and I want to make sure that this is really down tight. So again, I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to work my way out to the edges, and I'm going to rub that down. I want to make sure there are no air bubbles, and I want to make sure that the edges are really well sealed. I do not want glycerin rolling down inside of there. Then the other thing I do is just spin it and make sure it's nicely polished, because then I can go ahead and put my crystal clear on. Now, this is something I never do inside the studio because crystal clear is strong, it gets you high as a kite, and you don't want to do it indoors. I have a space in back where I can spray either outside or in my shop, and I have an exhaust fan. You want to be careful with this stuff, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to bring a little baby plate in here. I'm going to set the bottle on it and show you quickly how I do it. So there are a couple of things to think about. Tomas, go ahead and bring that out for me, would you? Thank you. So remember, there are two kinds. There's gloss and there's matte. Matte is really good if you want to put it only on the back of the bottle because it's going to help flatten out light that's coming through it. If you want a glow that's softer, you can put matte spray on the back side of the bottle only. If you put it on the front, it's going to completely ruin it because it makes the bottle look frosted and it will change the label. Clients will absolutely hate that. Gloss, however, is the right way to go. It keeps the bottle glossy. It does knock down some of the gloss, which helps you with all those highlights that we're going to be fighting. It knocks down the gloss, but it keeps it true to looking like glass, and that's important as well. So, I do several coats of this stuff. I do 3 good coats. And I'm just going to set this out here. And again, this is only for demonstration purposes. So one, you want to shake it up, make sure it's nice and mixed. And I'm going to go completely around the bottle, right? I'm going to spray it all over. I'm going to go up and down. I'm going to do the back side. And I'm going to do the other side. Now, when I do this in my spray station, I set up a long table that's narrow, and I literally walk around the whole thing and I spray it. I do a first coat, I let it sit for about a half hour, 45 minutes. I come back, I do a second coat, let it sit for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and then I do my third coat. I want to build them up, I want to do it slowly. I never want to get this thing too close. You want to be about 12 inches away. You want to give good even strokes so that the gloss can lay properly on the bottle. You definitely don't want this stuff to run. You don't want it to get kind of thick and globbed up in spots. Then the other thing that's really important is let it cure overnight. I always build in a bottle prep day on all my productions because I want to be able to do this and let this stuff cure. You can rush it and get it on set a couple hours later, but this stuff works best when it's had time to set up overnight. That's a huge help. All right. And again, why do I do this? Why do I clear coat every bottle? Well, several reasons. One, it helps with the highlights a bit. But most importantly, it gives my refreshment cues something to hold on to. Believe it or not, that little bit of spray creates enough texture on the bottle. When I put spritz and slush, it has something to hold on to. That gives me the ability to really style the bottle. It's not just kind of putting it on and hoping that something sticks. It allows me to place things where I want it. The other thing that's really important about that, a lot of times we get labels that are paper, they're not plastic. Paper is going to suck up any of the moisture that's in the glycerin or in the ice chips. In any of those refreshment cues, it's going to suck that up. They're going to become wrinkled, they're going to start to peel, and it's going to completely ruin the shot. That is not how a brand wants to be represented. So this is a really simple step that helps you on multiple fronts. One, it protects your bottle from any kind of moisture soaking up into the label. Two, it gives you tooth, something for all those refreshment cues to hang on to. And three, it helps you with the glow coming through and the highlights on the front. It's all a benefit. Now, we don't always have the luxury of getting hero labels from the client. Sometimes we have to go with just what's right off the shelf. So we've got a couple that we're going to be shooting. This is the Hitachino White Ale, and we've gone ahead and we've taken off the back label, completely cleaned the front of the bottle, made sure that it was free of any kind of fingerprints and smudges, and then we went and sprayed it 3 times all the way around, and it has had a chance to cure. And we did the same thing with this bottle. We had the terrible back label that we stripped off, completely cleaned it, and it got it ready for set. So that's a good look at how I go about prepping the bottles. Now, you're going to see me working at the station again, because this is the same place that I use for putting all the refreshment cues on. I need a light box like this, a way to look at what's coming through the bottle, so I can put on the spritz and slush and really give it that kind of heroic dress look that I like on film.